Greetings everyone, and welcome to the AI World Summit 2020, organized by MyFinB Group. We'd like to thank you for attending this session today entitled Professional Services 4.0, the Future of Services in Legal, Advisory, and Accounting. The main context for this session is professional service providers have to play the role of trusted advisors to deliver value to their clients. They have to exercise a high degree of care, skilled foresight, and effectiveness towards solving the complex issues faced by their clients. Key questions that will be addressed for this track include: how could AI solve complex issues in various business situations? Why should professionals rely on AI as part of their work? What is the actual ROI of deploying AI in professional services? Could AI predict business failures or 10x opportunities, and what would it take to make it that far? This track explores deeply into the current and future solutions for professional service providers, and how their business models could change forever. We are deeply honored today to have our panel of speakers from UK, Malaysia, Singapore, and Cambodia, moderated by Paul W. Chan, who is based in Malaysia. Our esteemed panelists comprise of Steve Taklalsing, Managing Director/CFO of AIWS Banking; Ridwan Abdulaziz, President, Fintech Association of Malaysia; Founder, CS Tech Solutions; Managing Partner, Center of AI Innovation, CE.A.I; Founder/Director of Business, Total Accounting Solutions Knowledge, Task, Private Limited, who is Kenneth H.O. Sam Piu, CEO/Founder, Radius Market Cambodia Company, Limited; Julian Ng, Co-Founder/Chief Advisor of Acru Now; Michael Lim, Executive Director of Crow Growth Consulting. Without much further ado, I leave the digital stage to the chairperson and moderator of this track to continue the session. Over to you, Paul W. Chan, and enjoy this wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What you hear is a Robo MC announcing all our names. So we're quite well ahead of the technology now. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Paul W. Chan. I am the adjunct professor of Sunway University. I'm also a CPA and accountant of practice for many years, but now I serve on various corporate boards. So most of my work now today is serving on the boards as independent directors, audit committee chair, and various other positions. I also do quite a fair bit of NGO work, not-for-profit work, one of which is Malaysian Alliance of Corporate Directors. We want to raise the professionalism of corporate directors throughout. In fact, all of you professionals ought to be serving on the board because you really have a very good grasp of how to run a company. At the same time, also the Global IIRC Ambassador for the International Integrated Reporting Council, which is the direction now that the corporate reporting appears, in fact, it's quite definitely moving towards that. Besides financial reporting, we are moving into very much more broader scope of corporate reporting, right? I'm also involved with the Global Network Director Institute, which is actually an organization for corporate directors around the world. Right, today we have something like 22 members around the world, institutional members, with a total membership of something like 150,000 members globally. Right, so it is a quite interesting network among directors. The very reason why that they are involved with the corporate reporting is because at the end of the day, all this implementation of technology, new processes, the decision has to be made by corporate directors. Even in this section, we're talking about introducing AI, right? So without further ado, I would like to start off the session with the start of this session. Now, you're talking about professional services, whether legal, accounting, or whether it is consulting work. It's very interesting that the session just before this on banking, at the end of the day, all the technology, all the investment we put in place is to serve the customer, provide solution. Likewise, for ourselves, professional accountants, all right? I'm an accountant, so I talk more aligned to the accountants, but similarly for the legal profession as well. It's at the end of the day, our value proposition to the client must be very clear to the client to an extent that they're prepared to invest in you. right? If that is not clear in our mind, if we cannot communicate that value to the clients, that is a problem where pricing is always an argument, okay? But if you deliver value, right, pricing is actually benchmarked against the value you deliver. If you don't deliver value or don't perceive that there is value, client wouldn't want to pay you. Even if you're charging $100, it's too expensive, right? So that is the kind of scenario we have. Now, among the professionals, whether you're legal or accounting professional or management consultants, especially accountants, we have two categories of accountants. One is the public accounting services that you provide to your clients. Another is what they call a PAIB, professional accounting in business, where you are actually working within the business. Now, in this cross-section of participants here, I'm glad to see that we have got a good number of speakers who are involved with the corporate sector, working with the company, as well as those who are providing services, whether you're talking about cloud accounting, whether you're talking about various levels of services you provide to clients. As you see today, the market has moved very, very much, in fact, disrupted very much by technology. Wherever you look around, you see that it is invaded into the industry as well as into the profession, right? Very clearly stated, as the World Economic Forum did a study in 2018, what they're talking about is that the top 10, out of the top 10 technologies, out of the top 10 profession coming up in the year 2022, there's only 1-2 years down the road, 7 of them are IT related. You're talking about blockchain, you're talking about artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and on, right? And they talk about the bottom 10 professions are going to be decimated in the next 2 years. Among them are bookkeepers, accountants, and auditors. So I'm not trying to scare you, but that is an independent study done, okay? So where do we come in as professionals? Without doubt, we have to reinvent ourselves, right? Not only to upskill or reskill ourselves, but reinvent ourselves, moving into embracing and adopting technology in what we do. Now, in the current situation, in the last 20 years, I would say, accountants are highly in demand, especially in the corporate sector because of the financial crisis. We need financial experts to be in the board. Now, I serve on several boards, so I'm quite familiar with all this stuff, right? But as it moves along today, not to say accountants are less relevant, but technology is invaded our space that we have to re-equip ourselves, to reinvent ourselves to adopt all this technology. And one of which is, of course, artificial intelligence. Various study has been done that this is the direction for sure is moving in. And if the next 2 years is what World Economic Forum predicted, if we are not equipped, not necessarily be an expert, but at least be exposed to it, know the terminology, know the vocabulary, be able to talk to the board and get the board ready to meet this sort of new frontiers. And this frontiers is definitely coming in, right? In this discussion, I hope that when you share your ideas, all of us can learn together. We are all in the new frontier, okay? So without further ado, I would like to engage the expertise of each of you in different areas of professional services. And we call it professional services 4.0, which is very much aligned to the Industrial Revolution for IR 4.0. If I just give you another peek of it, next month, January, we are coming up with what we call a conference, we call it Governance 4.0. What it means here is that the board themselves must be ready, must be able to grasp all these changes. If not, how are we going to govern the company effectively? Now, what it also means is that if you're providing professional services, it's a great opportunity for us to equip ourselves to be able to communicate ideas like that to the corporate boards, to the C-suites, to our clients if we are serving SMEs, SMIs, how they can engage this kind of AI technology to help them to be productive, competitive, in fact, to help them to survive. It's not a question sometimes you think we want to adopt or we don't want to adopt. It's a question of whether you want to survive or you don't want to survive, right? So with that, I will refer this conversation just by the arrangement and this speaker's arrangement here. Steve, would you like to take first?
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'd like to introduce myself, Steve Takwal Singh. Managing Director of Amaze Business, which is a challenger bank based in the UK. And I come from a Big Four background, PwC, Deloitte, where I was an auditor and a consultant on the implementation of technology into banks. I'd like to start today while we are speaking about our professional services as a sort of a bridge between the previous panel discussion and take us forward into how we apply the use of legal services, accountants, advisors, both from a business perspective as well as a consultant. So why now? Where there's been an exponential increase in computing. This has led to increased speed, efficiency, reliability of the internet in processing numerous complex transactions via cloud computing and nanocomputing. Algorithms continue to get more and more complex and detailed. This convergence has led to deeper learning models, which lead to enhancing image recognition and voice recognition. There's more and more reliable natural language processing, which is like speech to text or voice to mobile device. Excuse me. We also have over the last 2 years, we have natural language generation and predictive analytics becoming more and more reliable. In a use case scenario for Amaze, where we use a lot of artificial intelligence, I'll just take one aspect of our banking, which is particularly onboarding. So for onboarding, a customer would download an app, go through KYC, KYB, if an account is open on the bank's core ledger, the client sub-account is open with the bank, which is
sorry, Mr. Steve,
sorry?
Would you full screen your presentation slide?
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. Okay, so yes, so I wanted to apply professional services to a customer journey, particularly at the onboarding level of how we onboard clients. The idea is, as a challenger bank, to make things more rapid, easy, efficient for a bank, for a business bank to be able to open an account. Sorry, for business clients to open a business bank account. So they download an app, they will go through KYC, know your client, know your business, the bank's core ledger opens an account for them in the back office where the accounting and reconciliation takes place. We have the client sub-account and sort code, which is issued to the client. These details are embedded in a fulfillment file, which goes to the card manufacturer. The card manufacturer embeds those details into a card and it goes sends it to the customer. On a real-time basis, this onboarding and KYC, KYB process can take place in approximately 7 minutes. As long as a client has a clean credit history and no red flags on his personal history, the account can be opened and he can be funding the account and doing transactions. It takes roughly 48 to 72 hours to actually receive the card in the mail. So in terms of legal and compliance, this is where we rely a lot on our legal experts, both as internal and external. We have our internal people that does the maintenance. We hire a significant number of specialist lawyers who help us develop these processes and on the ongoing maintenance and development. So in downloading the mobile app, we have to ensure that one, the app is safe and secure. There are several legislations around the security available for the mobile app that needs to be required. It has to be PCI DSS, so to avoid cyberjacking or any sort of cyber fraud. Then we develop the KYC details on an individual basis. KYC as a know your customer. What this happens is that the customer takes a photo of their passport, they do a video, they do a voice speech, sample speech. From that, the algorithms work in the background and do facial recognition, match that to the passport. They've tagged that their voice recognition to it, and then they also use the details embedded when they input the app for proof of home address to ensure that this person is a valid person or a real person. He's on his he has utilities. He can vote. The normal sort of background checks. All this happens within nanoseconds. So this is where this goes on the director side. The information is split, so then the company details are checked against company's house registrations. It shows the directors is attached to this business. Then it immediately does PEP and sanctions checks to ensure that these guys aren't politically exposed. They haven't been fined. They're not necessarily badly associated with a government that may have been sanctioned. Now, a PEP politically exposed person can be good or bad. It just means they're associated with a government, and then you have to do enhanced due diligence. And this is where our internal legal and compliance team would come in, because this is where we get what's called a RAG alert, red, amber, green. So ideally, you want to have a green. As long as all your background checks and business checks are green, the account is open within and you're transacting. When you're amber, this is where the enhanced due diligence take place, and our legal team would do individual interviews either by phone or video, or we never do face-to-face, but we interface with different forms of media. Normally, if it's a red, it means it's a no-go. It means something's quite significant for it to be a red alert. Now, how we embrace artificial intelligence in this is in terms of the facial recognition and the speed of which a business background check can be done. If you don't have appropriate facial recognition or facial similarity checks matching to a passport, then what you find is that you have quite a high amount of amber alerts, whereas you want to move all of your applications to the green alert so that there's less interaction with the client and the account is opened automatically. And for this, we have to appoint a combination of experts, expert legal providers and expert technology to ensure what these service providers can have the appropriate level of efficiency in, say, moving from 47% green to 97% green. And that's where the efficiency in our business is, because the more amber alerts you have, the less efficient, more expensive it is to maintain that client. So in terms of an advisory position, and this is where, similar to Paul, I'm on several boards myself, as well as responsible for this particular entity. So what do we need as a stakeholder in the business? We need to assess performance quickly. We need to identify the gaps, and we need to identify align the strategies. And once we align strategies, then we can move on to execution. And if we're looking at a maze level where I'm the MD, I'm responsible for the execution and ensure the entire business operates smoothly from end to end. As a board professional, I expect the executive directors of that business to be able to standardize data, show it present into a board pack that we can make reasonable assumption of their performance, how far away they are from the strategies we identified or discussed at the previous board meetings, and again, what's the corrective action to execute for the next quarter or next year. In terms of accounting, this is where, again, continuing on from the previous panel discussion, in the world of financial services, transactions happen in hundreds of thousands within nanoseconds. And this is where we are from a back end of a core ledger of a bank. Every time a client taps a card, that's a transaction. We can have hundreds of thousands of transactions on a daily basis. and all of that has an interchange fee on it. We have to split it out, we have to recognize it, we have to reconcile it. And this is where we rely heavily on enhanced analytics and automated financial reporting. So the more we can automate the financial reporting, we move directly to daily financial statements or real-time financial statements. So this would allow us to have more effective audits by appropriate risk assessment and promoting strategy alignment and development. So how does it promote strategy alignment and development? The accountants now become basically users of the information. They're not prepared.
Visa.
Sorry? Oh, okay. The accountants don't prepare the information anymore. They use the information and manage by exception. The lawyers who help us with the legal and compliance, they don't just advise us, they actually help us program the algorithms. A lawyer now has to be able to look at any sort of algorithm. Any single algorithm can have like up to 400 rules. They fine-tune those rules to assess the effectiveness of an onboarding a customer. The accountants can help us use this information again by programming algorithms for transaction monitoring. And when we look at transaction monitoring, this has so many aspects of real-time information. It's looking at ensuring we don't have any unusual transactions, which identifies anti-money laundering or fraud transactions. There are certain characteristics to look out for that can be programmed. It flags an alert, and that the accountant can identify that as a gap or notify legal and compliance. You know, on a real-time basis, when you're operating and you have client funds on the account, you always have to ensure you manage your capital adequacy with a regulator, which is your minimum capital required to ensure you're suitably capitalized for the business you're managing. On a real-time basis, your exposure is calculated. You're on every time on a real-time basis. Your balance sheet is updated. Your capital adequacy is calculated. That will automatically notify at management level if you're close to breaching your capital adequacy requirements.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I think your experience is really valuable because of the inside story of how the bank is run. At the same time, you're also serving on the board, right?
Yes.
Just now, this session that we have about the banking is just before us, and we're talking about how do we reach out to the board on introducing technology like the AI, right? Usually the problem in the board level, I'm sure you've experienced that, the people serving on the board are usually, as we study here by KPMG 2 years ago, they're 60 and above. Global average about 63 and above, and sometimes they wonder how much capacity senior people can capture all this technology. You know, but you have a very unique position. So therefore, I would put it this way, you know, if we can relate the strategic implementation of technology in order to create value for the company, regardless of what business you are, right? That makes a lot of difference, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is another conversation, of course. We had this conversation yesterday on the board level, right? How that the board can be involved in AI, and the fact is that in fact we cannot ignore it. As I mentioned in yesterday's statement was that, you know, AI is no longer a choice whether you want to adopt or not to adopt. It's a question whether you want to survive or not to survive. All right, become an imperative. Right? So yeah, thank you very much for your side of it, from the inside story of how you introduce AI to the bank. The next speaker will go to Kenneth Ho, and he is providing services to I suppose the clients in SME or even the public company. His company is Total Accounting Solution Knowledge from Singapore. Are you ready, Kenneth?
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Kenneth. I'm from Total Accounting. Particularly, this company was founded in 2014, and over the last 6 years, definitely the landscape of accounting has changed quite a lot. From a traditional accounting, maybe back since let's say 30 years ago, probably people will be drawing ledgers using hard manual book ledgers. But then later on, maybe let's say 20 years ago, they are using software. And until recent years, AI really changed the landscape. And going forward, even there are, in terms of accounting, using RPA, robotic processing accounting, where robots are doing the work. And probably the bookkeepers will be very soon be obsolete, and you probably need just an admin girl to just only scan in the papers and just recognize the accounting transaction. But however, I think
World Economic Forum gave us 2 years, 2022.
Yeah, so I think okay, maybe just a head start. I was also a bookkeeper. I started my career back in 2007 after my national service. So started off my career and in a mid-tier audit firm. Then after I moved on to quite a few of the bigger outsourced players, such as Baker Tilly and also TMF. Then after that, I find that the challenge I've seen is there already, but because of the adoption of technology, I felt that I have to embrace new technology, but certain traditional accounting firms are still not so ready these days. Probably in terms of maybe the partners are probably getting aging a lot, but whereby I've also, after meeting Nasri through one of our alumni networking, then I think that really plays a big part in changing the mindset of embracing AI. Okay. But let's share with you how I embrace AI on my own personal aspect, also in this company. In 2016, I met up with Nasri. Nasri introduced me to AI. At the point of time, I was thinking, how can AI help us accountants? I was thinking that AI was a big threat, actually. Will it be fully replace us and our jobs will be obsolete? But then maybe after struggling for a year, I met up Nasri again over a cup of coffee, and Nasri has introduced us how actually it actually enhance our value and how can be value creation to our clients. Instead of probably providing the traditional service like bookkeeping, financial statements, so and forth. But how can we embrace AI using AI? How can we embrace the AI and enhance our value? So we adopted one of these technology introduced by Nasri, it's called the management review. And this management review practically helps our company and our clients to even get a better insight of the client's affair. For instance, we have a client whose annual revenue is about $10 million. We have supported them for almost 3-4 years, and that every year we just provide the same old service, preparing the books, preparing the financial statements for submission. But then with AI, we use it in probably the last 1 year. The client finds that we are much better equipped and more value adding to them. That we can actually tell them that these are the strength, the weakness, and even the threats which is they're going to face in the next 6 months to 12 months. So that is the changes of the landscape of AI, which actually help us professional service providers to be better equipped and also to value add our clients. Of course, not only through this traditional service, even our prospective clients, when they came to us to sell a business, they were a bit hesitant. So in order to calm them down, we also use AI and to help them to provide them a market research readiness report. Let's say for their industry in Singapore, they from overseas, they come to Singapore. How can we ensure them that Singapore is a ready market for them? So that is where AI comes into play, and we will generate a market readiness report based on the particular industry they are in. And
good. So you're going beyond accounting to AI services, right?
Yes, correct.
As you realize that most of the accounting work, I've been an accountant for 30 over years, and I retired as an accountant, and I'm learning AI. AI is still very new to me, but I find it's a very, very interesting area. But I'm also conscious of time. The organizer just texted me, so it would be great if each one of you can communicate your ideas within 5 to 7 minutes, because we have a time ending up in at 4:30.
Okay.
So yeah, okay.
Okay, so
if you don't mind,
okay. So just to wrap up for this in short, I felt that as we embrace AI, we shouldn't be fearing it. Like what you say, we have to learn to whether we choose to accept it or not to accept it. It's a matter of survival. So in order to survive in particular industries, seriously for us, AI is a must thing already. It's a daily bread and butter, just like handphone. In the past, handphone is a luxurious thing. Now it's a need. Same as AI. AI will be a need for almost every industry. I think
Good.
that
We have the same
always comes
thoughts.
up. Yeah.
We have the same thoughts. Yeah,
Yes.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be something that you can do in Malaysia too, helping SMEs. All right, thank you very much, then,
Thank you,
Kenneth.
Paul.
Yeah, thank you very much. Shall I move on to Julian? Now, let's take about 5 minutes each. I know the time is very, very tight. These topics can go on for a whole day, I can tell you. We talk about accounting, talk about AI and so on and so forth. All right, Julian, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Paul, and thank you, everybody, for inviting me as well. So let me just give a quick background. We are in the business of Robo Advisory. We recently brought that to Malaysia. It's not a new idea. It's been started over in the US maybe about 10 years back. And this really solves the investment problem, which is very complex and very painful, very expensive. Ordinary people don't know how to do it properly. So we make proper investing easy and cheap. Just to touch on this AI versus humans thing, right? What we are doing is that we are solving all the pain points of getting the investment done, which means that we collate info, remit money, we execute trades with fair prices, we allocate accounts, and we report prices daily. So if a human had to do this, basically it's a lot of grind work, not groundwork, but grind work, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that because of algos, we are able to perform micro investing very efficiently, which would not be possible with a human advisor. Because how do you invest, for example, let's say 10 ringgit for somebody, or even one ringgit. We have customers investing 1 ringgit, right? So we are in a position to actually invest that very efficiently. Now, the other aspect is that the client actually takes control because they input all the the different inputs that they require to have a successful financial goal. All right, effectively, the client has sort of become their own advisor, and that's a very good thing. But it displaces the human advisor a little bit, right? And we are able to do this very cheaply. So we are basically definitely a price disruptor. Now, a background of the investment world over the last decade is this raging battle between passive investing and active investing. Basically, active is all about human activity, right? The ability of human fund managers to make predictions about price movements in the future. But the passive side really thinks that we can do away with all this prediction and just accept what the market gives us. And the exchange traded funds, which are listed in stock markets, have allowed us not only to conceptually accept that, but to actually materialize this through, let's say, APIs and so on. It's very easy to form an advisory framework by just putting together a few ETFs and trading them through the API. So this makes actually the advisory in passive investing more reliable when they're closely related to policy and market representation, rather than relying on the ability of humans to predict future price movements, which research and statistics have proven that it doesn't really work. So I think the future of investment advisory ultimately is to provide peace of mind for people, for the mass market, not just for the high net worth individuals, but for the mass market. So we're talking about tracking spending habits, forecasting costs like health costs, the children's education costs, insurance costs, and so on. And providing earnings potential to them, expanding their world of earning and income through, let's say, smart contracts, blockchains, expanding their world of investments, for example, with equity crowdfunding, P2P funding, and so on. We are able to use algorithms to basically devise a solution for the customer. So whether or not the human advisors would lose out or would be replace, right, in the short term, that's very hard to say, but there's some writing on the wall already. I think a huge part of the human process will become redundant. For example, the meetings, the complex calculations, the input changes. But there is opportunity for the humans to adapt their business models as prices fall and the volumes go up. So they will still be able to be paid to make a living. But I think that perhaps complete replacement of machines for human beings will be a long time away.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Julian. I've been in service business for so many years, 30, 40 years. Human being is still needed, right?
Yes.
And there's no way that you can replace human being, but human being can adapt themselves to the changing technology and enhance our capability of relating to another human being. I think that's very, very important. Don't forget about that. I'm sure some of you, sometimes you look at the how machine try to emulate, or how genius try to emulate human being. No matter how you create human being, even the way you think in artificial intelligence, it's never be the same as a human being, right? Close, yes, but never be the same. So thank you very much for this thought. In fact, I would say that this group is an excellent group. After this, we should get together and see how we can service the client in a much more holistic way. All right, I've done. Yeah.
On that note, Paul, I just want to do a quick one, right?
Sure.
I've read this book. I forget the author, but a very famous one. I think it could be Malcolm Gladwell, who said that that people could not tell the difference when a machine composed a symphony, right? And also, while I was sort of preparing for this presentation, I opened up my Google Doc, and Google started predicting, what I was going to type in, and I was just wondering whether I could have an entire presentation just with the help of Google. But there you go.
You can.
Still a long time away.
No, you can. Actually, you can write a book with the machine. The machine can help you write a book. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I talk about. Legal profession is already, all right. The machine can help you to compile the cases, right? So that's another thing. It's a very exciting frontier, I would say. This in 90 minutes, very difficult to share with everybody, but I hope that we can create a community to continue this conversation, right? So again, because of time, let me move on to Rizwan. Would you like to introduce yourself, Rizwan?
Thank you, Paul. Don't have to call me Encik Rizwan. I'm
okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I do many things. I was a regulator before and a few other things. So what I'm going to do is to share things that concern legal services, and we did this research and actually effort with one of the largest legal firms in Malaysia, and we noticed that this is something that is going to be disrupted, not just at the legal firm level, but also at the corporate level, where they have huge legal services within the corporation. And we noticed that the service, this legal service actually, just like accounting that you mentioned just now, where one is the practitioner and the other one as a service, legal also has been divided into similar way. And we noticed that in country like the US, they have a lot of firm that's already automated their services, legal firm, and as well as in Southeast Asia, there's almost, I think, close to 100 enterprises that's already ventured into this area. Next slide, please. Okay, so why it matters is because the cost to actually do this is getting higher, and we did a quick research in our own market in KLSC and noticed that there's a huge jump in terms of amount of costs that's spent compared to the revenue of any enterprises, and this is why we think this is going to be a very lucrative area where automation and digitalization is going to come in. it's not going to replace lawyers, but it's going to enhance the capabilities of lawyers, whether they are practitioner or they are an in-house counsel. And we noticed that it will also improve their capabilities in delivering what the businesses want, whether they are an external counsel or they are an internal counsel. Next one, please. So this is basically when we interviewed and discussed with either the law firm or the big corporates in terms of what are they facing. They're looking at how you can get a holistic services as far as legal matters is concerned. And from a corporate perspective, when we talk to several listed company on Bursa, we noticed that they have concern in terms of increase in workload, legal analysis capability, and then looking at it from a precedent perspective, especially from the in-house counsel. And also a lot of the not so big corporate have a limited legal budget in terms of looking at it. And then if they want to go and expand their business inorganically, they notice that legal services is one of the larger chunk of costs they need to spend. And it also is a complex regulatory environment that they need to actually resolve. So this is where, from a corporate perspective, it made a lot of sense for them to use legal as a service. And we noticed that many firms, especially in neighboring countries, in Australia and in Europe, has already moved towards providing these kind of services into the market. Next one, please. And when we study some of the legal as a service firm out there, we noticed that they could at least provide all these capabilities in terms of digitizing precedents. They can also structure merger and acquisition much better compared to all human team effort. And they also could provide a comprehensive dashboard for the lawyers as well as for the business people to understand how it relates to the businesses that they do. And if in need for human capabilities, they can always have lawyer on-call capabilities based on the list of legal firms that they have already engaged on retainers. And one of the things that we noticed became one of the concern of the corporate is in terms of how they protect new ideas that's coming in, and they requested for us to consider whether some digital vault could be created for them in terms of protecting whatever ideas that has yet to be IP'd or to be registered under their name. So this is an area that we found very interesting and now getting more and more demand from the corporate side. As well as last but not least, in terms of scaling their services, in terms of growing their reach to the SMEs as well as the law firm. Next one, please. So when we look at it, we notice that this is the typical legal as a system legal as a service ecosystem that we found. And we noticed that quite a big corporates, big law firms, and vendors in terms of either a digital signature or digital documentation are already out there offering their services. And more of these capabilities are being demanded. I would love to spend a little bit more time, but not here, in terms of explaining further of what has happened in terms of our work with the legal firm that we are being engaged with in terms of expanding legal as a service ecosystem. But I'll do that later when we have our coffee and teh tarik afterwards. Next one, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is very, very clear in terms of value proposition, why legal as a service is something that is getting more and more demand, because it is making a lot of sense to the business side for the CEOs and for CFO to actually look at and consider, because rather than just dealing with an in-house counsel that may have been overworked, using legal as a service could provide them with clarity in terms of services and value that it can provide, And it also can be added further in terms of solution that you want to enhance based on that platform that you have. And it also has the capability of making it as an ecosystem and joining other verticals as well into that, and making it easy for him to scale up with cost effectiveness. I think I'm gonna end. Is there any more slide after this? Yeah. So yeah, so that's all that I want to share, and yeah, I would love to have further discussion with all of you and receive more questions from the rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rizwan. We're waiting for your tea, Tariq, to have a better conversation after this, more extensive conversation. It's very interesting. I'm sure that the legal aspect you have heard about, I mean, we heard about this machine called what is IBM Watson, right? All right. What I read from the article was that they said that to compile a case in it, you need something like a dozen of these legal assistants, you know, probably plow through all the cases in probably 4 weeks, you know, to come up with a case, you know, and it's only about 60% accuracy. IBM Watson can do it in terms of minutes with 90% accuracy. Likewise for medical, likewise for even the financial investment side.
Yep.
It's they're in a very interesting frontier. Of course, a lot to do with machine learning, artificial intelligence. That's why we are in this new world that COVID has really pushed us in such an extent that we have to adopt it, whether we like it or not. Right. So thank you very much for your presentation, Rizwan. Now, shall I move on to Sam Pyo from Cambodia? Are you there, Sam?
Sam, I think you are on mute, Sam.
Hey, hi, Sam.
Hi, welcome, Sam. Yes, hi.
So I guess, Paul, as we discussed before, I don't have any presentation, just a tricky question, a few tricky questions that I sent over, so we're going to talk about it. The reason I put the question, because I want to learn more, because AI, I'm still in the learning process. Well, my name is Sam Poe, and we're running the management consulting firm in Cambodia. We help businesses, especially SME, and foreign investors as well, to do market analysis, feasibility studies, and all that. And I've been working a lot with the SME here, and a lot of us here, we really don't understand or cannot differentiate between the industry 3.0 versus 4.0. We're still confused, so that's why I put the questions up, so we all need to understand or discuss what is the difference, some of the difference between the 3.0 and 4.0. So anyway, I hope other speaker can share your experience or knowledge based on this, based on the questions. So for what I understand from my point is that if you look at the industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, I find that the 3.0 and the 4.0, it's a gray line. It's there's not a lot of there's a difference between the 3.0 and 4.0. A lot of people said no. At least people that I spoke to, they said, "Oh, it's the same, almost the same thing. I have computer, I have internet, I have system, ERP system. Therefore, I'm implementing 4.0. Register online shopping. This is all 4.0s, right? So, in the emerging market in Cambodia, we're still talking about 3.0, not the 4.0. But that's why there's a difference between the two technology or two eras, right? 3.0 and 4.0. So my answer, yeah, the 3.0 is more automation with specific programming, whereas the 4.0 is there more intelligence programming behind it. Like technology can respond according to the environment, whereas the 3.0 have the technology will respond according to what we program and what we tell them to do, right? So this is some of the questions I put forward, and the other question is that how it will implicate human intervention if you implement artificial intelligence. The answer would be, it doesn't matter what technology you're implementing in the company. There's still human touches will be there. You might reduce certain administrative function, clerical, non-core competency, non-core competent function, but value-added services still be there, will be executed by humans. So, but there are certain function, certain clerical, maybe it actually has been replaced with technologies already. So there's still a lot of questions, especially a lot of manual work, a lot of our, I mean, probably 80%, 90% of the work here is still carried out by manual labor. We still do a lot of data entries and inputs and all that, right? We still manual work, still paperwork, a lot of paperwork, a lot of, so it's not even a technology. But I think we're moving gradually and slowly to implement technologies. But there's still a lot of confusion in the market, whether we implement a 3.0 technology or 4.0 technologies, right? This is still confusing. I think technology will not work if you don't understand it. People are afraid to implement it if they don't understand it. You can have the best technologies, you can have the best process in the world, but if you don't understand how the technology works, it's not good. Some company here implement the best ERP system, but people don't know how to use it, and then they park it. So it's important for us to understand technology and how the technology will fit in with your organizational model. You can have the best luxury car, but you don't know how to drive it, what the sense of it, buy a brand new and luxury cars, right? So my job, our job is to try to help people to understand if the technology, if the business process will benefit from AI solution or from other technologies. But I feel that we still afraid to use technology, not because we don't have the capability of using it, but it's just we don't understand it. Okay. The other question that I put is how the technology will impact professional services. Yeah, I'm from a professional, I work in a professional service sector. It helps when it comes to technology, when it comes to output, productivity. I'm talking about speed, time, speed, and quality, right? Time means how much time do I have to do? Speed, it means how fast can I do it, at what quality. So technology is very, very critical for professional services if you implement it right. But the only problems with technology, the setback is the data integrity, the input. Because if you don't have the right input, you will get the wrong output. That's so if you don't have the right data, the right ingredients, basically you're going to get the wrong output. So this could be a problem for the clients. So data integrity is one of the key. If you don't have the data integrity, if you don't have the right data, technology will not work. So I work with a lot of clients, and we try to, I say, we can have the best technology, but if you don't have the data, the input, if you input incorrectly, it's no use. Mm-hmm. So, and then the other question I was asking myself was, can an organization become less competitive in the marketplace if you don't implement technology? The answer, yes. Because technologies are here to stay, whether we like it or not. We have to adapt to technology. We have to implement technologies to become more competitive in the marketplace. Because time, speed, and quality, we don't want to wait. Given the current conditions, I mean, it's unpredictable, business unpredictable. So if we don't rely on technologies like Zoom, we rely on face-to-face meetings, and there's restrictions due to COVID-19 and all that. So technologies will become, it will be more efficient, it will be more productive if we use it correctly. But if we don't,
I think, Sam, I fully agree with you on that, but in much of which technology is imposed into our lives today requires intermediary like us, advisor or consultant, to communicate with the masses. The masses may not be so equipped with technology. That's taken as given, right? In today's environment, for example, even the person that is very low tech person will know how to use a smartphone, right? So eventually, it's important that we have the communication with the client on how to use the tools. And tools are becoming more and more and more sophisticated today, right? Cutting down a lot of technological jargon, and yet we can use it. So we are living in that kind of environment. So as a professional advisor, the more that we understand the capacity and the capability of technology and communicate with the client, and how to help the client to add value to what they are doing, whether it's making more profits, more convenient in their life, and so on and so forth, that will be added value, right? So that is another conversation. We can have a much more extended conversation, right?
It's added value, but But
okay.
Sometimes accessibility.
So as I said, this is a very interesting conversation. We perhaps should expand it to continue to have this community and discussion, right? Again, I'm looking at the time, which is a very tight for time now. So if you don't mind to move on to the next speaker, all right, then we can have a Q&A. There's some question posted onto the website. Okay, so let's hear from Michael. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Good.
Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Next speaker, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for getting me into this summit over here. I'm just going to share my screen. So it's easier. Oh, you have my slides ready. So I think it's easier if I just share from my side. Can you see my screen? So they say that always save the best for last. Since I'm the last speaker, right, I probably only have like 1 minute time to run through my presentations, and I actually have 100 slides to finish up to speed up throughout this whole 1 minute. The usual disclaimer as usual. Okay, I'm just gonna skip it very quickly. When I mirror what you have shared just now, Paul, I was actually at the World Economic Forum in 2018, and I came back to my firm, right, with practically came running back to my firm and become an evangelist and said, hey, you know what, we have to change, because you see that robot there, the AI there, that's definitely going to change, right, our whole entire industry. But one of the things that I've learned also is this, no matter how, when we look at AI at its best, right, it's still dependent on the human creator. In many words, right, the creator create the AI, and we still need to craft, define, and form its higher advanced functionalities. And with that, right, my presentation itself, I've got 4 main areas. I want to talk about how professional firms can embrace AI, which is the today's future, how it actually progress along the times, and how we can actually elevate the AI, right, to become a tomorrow's contender. What are the potential to level up for professionals like us? And how do we engage AI, and what are the transitionary points? What are the productivity quadrants that we want to actually focus on? And eventually establishing AI, right? I call it the triple bottom line. Also the passage to profitability for professional firms. I'm looking at it from the perspective of professional firms, because that's the topic. So rather than looking at the whole entire spectrum of AI. So we know that AI has got 3 levels. There's the earlier ones before 2012 was applied intelligence, a form of AI. All right. And then we have what we have today, right? After 2012, when heuristic AI came about, was what we call as augmented intelligence. And eventually we have artificial intelligence. Hopefully it will be happening within the next 10 to 20 years. And lastly, right, we do have some what we call as agitated intelligence. Since the dawn of mankind, when man has emotional mixed with intelligence, and we have that, right? And when I look at AI itself, right, I find that most of the value maximization can be divided into 3 areas. And at this moment, most of them are still using AI as a processing tool, where we use it to collate and then process large sums of data. And then eventually, right, it becomes an assistant to us. We leverage on it to basically look at decision making, to visualize the insights and recognize patterns. And we have some like say Julian, right, who is actually more like using it as a product builder. We actually harness it, right, to build optimized products. So for example, Boeing 777 was one where they collated all these other ideas using some form of digital optimization to come up with the best selling plane ever under Boeing. And what we have in Julian's concept, we have these parent algorithms ideating algorithm products. So if I were to look at AI, right, there are 3 phases to AI. In fact, 3 phases to every different type of product. I don't have time to go through this whole slide. We do have some AI in the area of creation, some AI in the area of commercialization, and some in the area of capitalization. Each of them have their own, who are the parties that are involved in it, the skill sets required, the kind of focus that we need, and also the game that they're looking at. So I'll just look in terms of what's relevant to us here. Let's look at commercialization, right? Most of the guys who want to get into AI in the area of commercialization are the value creation investors, the technopreneurs. They are not really the early adopters with deep pockets or with a level of knowledge. And they don't really need deep tech or even being highly skilled, but they have specialized applied skill sets in the area of AI. And their focus is very simple. They are only interested in infrastructure building and app layers. And their game is simple. First to market, mobilize the business, go out there and start earning some form of profitability. I would like to bring this point here, right, where if I look at AI, we have 3 different types of products. I mean, in broad sense, you have routine processes like your natural language processing, your RPAs, your robotic processing automations, and then you have the decision making part, which is your predictive analytics, decision tree, and then the complex operations like your fusion of AIs, your Watson equivalent in IBM, etc. And as you can see, right, the RPAs are already at the commercialization, at the capitalization stage. The expert systems are very old; they're already there, but they are already being phased out by new AIs. And what we see in this trend here is that decision trees, right, are coming to a level where it's being commercialized, and eventually predictive analytics will come soon. And as you can see forth, how this come about. Now, I think what's important here, if I were to look at commercialization, is that when we study AI, right, or the area of how AI would then form the future of professional service, we actually have to look back a bit and you say that how did this whole rise of internet come about? And we find out that all these companies that you see on the right, they were able to basically grow to where they are because there was this availability of infrastructure for them to build their tech or app or company from their own garage or room. And when it comes to AI as well, right, I guess there's this race to build the same level of infrastructure for space travels or AI technologies. Why is it Elon Musk is sending SpaceX up and then being able to bring the rocket booster down? So the idea is that hopefully someday, somewhere, somebody will be able to leverage on this infrastructure to build advanced technologies from the back of their garage. And this is very important because the moment that happens, AI becomes democratized. But these are the investment barrier, right, for AI when it comes to implementation. I think the biggest thing is always investment factor. Whether your maturing AI tech as compared to your cost of investing makes sense, or you have to pick the right timing to actually go in. If it's too early, it's too expensive. And talent acquisition is also challenging because technology has not stabilized, so people don't know what to actually focus on. And so therefore, what we see in professional services consists of the same thing again: routine process, decision making, and complex operations. All right, artificial in the middle, where professional services will use AI to deliver services, and then it will be supported by all these areas like data analytics, technical input, HCIs, human-computer interaction, fuzzy logic, natural language processing. And from here, we can actually divide them into 4 quadrants. I call it the 4 A's. There's the internal part to the firm, and there's the external part to the firm, external referring to the clients. So when I look at commercial activities, right, I think the easiest, like what we have seen in Kenneth's business automation, automating it by RPAs, or even in Steve's business, where he then uses the eKYC, online AMLA checks, and etc. At the same time, the more complex algorithms between the internal firm will be the accessibility to AI-based products, right? And refocusing them to look at maybe decision tree mapping or business case building platform, right? That can simulate all kinds of scenarios for better decision making. There's a lot more input required for that. And sometimes technology as that is probably quite expensive at this moment. But when I move to the external part, right, we are now seeing application of AIs in various clients or industries, which has resulted, in the areas of like fintech, regtech, supply chain, education. And one of the, some of the clients that we know, we actually seen them using different areas to even study how they are looking, how they're studying as well. And of course, the highest challenge of all is augmentation. When we use AI to solve tough challenges such as your climate change, poverty, COVID-19, the lights that you see in the World Economic Forum. And between these, we actually have mapped out, right, where most of the progress items are at this moment. And as you can see, right, the automation part over here is still, it's already at the commercialization part. And even for application, a lot of them has gone into capitalization because they're starting to see how that can be used across industries. But when it comes to accessibility, right, it's still a fair bit of it is between creation to commercialization. For automation, right, for augmentation, a lot of it is in creation, but some of the big firms, right, have actually gone into these two areas, right, and that's a different game play altogether. Now, for us in Crow, we actually have got this thing called AIWS methodology, where we actually help our clients to implement AI. We use this thing as apply, build, learn, and establish, because you got to apply the AI and understand how it works in your business, and then we got to build a business case for it, all right? Or else there is no reason to put the AI in place, and then that has to come with a learning experience, not necessarily just for the team to learn about the AI, but also to train the AI up as it collates data and recognize patterns. And lastly, to establish an ecosystem, you know, where your expertise, your experiential learning, and successful experiments, right, can commingle, so that the business can scale up to the next level. And at each of them, at each of these areas here, right, you require different type of items. So the first area, when you apply, you need to have a technology to apply. But when it comes to building it up, right, a business, you need to have the right talent to come in place of that. But when it comes to learning, it takes time. And once you establish, you know, your AI ecosystem, you need to then set a territory for the AI to be able to work. And within Crow itself, I mean, just to share a bit about my own firm, we have actually kind of looked at, you know, we map out our whole entire digital ecosystem within our 5 strategic initiatives. I can't share what the initiatives are. And we actually divided by process, people, and product, as you can see over here. It's a bit like periodic table. And within that, right, we actually say, you know, within product, if I want to make AI work in my own firm, the first area I need to look at, which is 01, which is the business model. I can't share what is it that we're doing within the business model, but we then say that, you know, how can AI make sense within our business model, and how can that business model make sense to our client as well as we go out there, so that we can then understand how that comes about. For example, under process, there's PM. PM is project management. We're using AI to look at project management itself, right? And just a simple case study for one of the insurance clients done in Crow US, right? They implemented a machine learning model to increase sales value, all right, of their client. As you can see, right, based on AI, we're able to map out where all the areas are with no sales and high sales. And because of that, the outcome was there was more accurate purchase prediction, improved product customizations, better sales, revenue, and profit for the client. And so I think the last, I mean, I'm coming to the end of my slides. AI may surpass a sentient being's processing capability, but can it really replace the inherent creative gut feel and emotional quotient of a human being? I mean, I like Star Wars. I mean, Star Trek and Star Wars. I feel that there's a need to guide the development of AI. And in Star Trek itself, right, there's this character called Data. He strives to be more human emotionally, and eventually he completed the journey in Star Trek Picard by setting up ethical charters and moral code for his own species, right? But when it comes to Star Trek Discovery, there's a more newer version. There's this thing called Control. Control is hungry for knowledge. It's a form of AI system and strives to be sentient. Eventually, it destroys all sentient lives in the future. So my take here is this: the day is coming soon when AI will work side by side with its human compatriots to solve tomorrow's most insurmountable challenges. Yeah.
In fact, it's an interesting question that just posted into the web here. Relating to what you're talking about, Michael, you know, and how is it relating to the customer or the user? You see, the question is that what are the main characteristics of a good customer service specialist, and how do you think that his or her profile would change in the future? The question is asking you, how would the customer themselves that you handle or the client you handle eventually change the personality or the preparation to change a person to adapt to this new technology? Now, this is not only applicable to the service provider like yourself, but already Steve has given us a very good customer service strategy they have in the bank, to an extent that, you know, the customer feels so much the system is so friendly, right? They actually adopt it. Now, this is one of the biggest challenge when we talk about technology, not only to the customer, even to all the workforce. Your workforce people are also feeling that kind of challenges, right? So that is a question asked, how do you prepare for the change of personality?
Right? That's right,
you can answer that, and perhaps some other people can chip in as well. Okay, please.
So I you see today, I feel that there are two components to this whole entire customer service specialist aspect. One is the human interaction and human facing aspect, and we cannot replace that, because at the end of the day, it is always more comfortable to see another human at the other end of the screen than to just interact with robots alone. But there are processes that we can put in place, right, to assist that human interaction. So for example, right, we have chatbots, we have got data, right, to be able to understand about, what's happening with the clients. And there's even one client that we work with, right, just by listening to the conversation, the omni-channel conversation, right, they can detect emotional beats of the customer and then basically advise on what to do. Is the customer getting angry? How do we deal with the clients? Or even on the other area of client servicing, when we look at project management, how do we manage deadlines? How do we ensure that we follow through with some of the items? How do we come to speed when it comes to delivering services within their expectation as well? And even sometimes understanding what the customer know about the client, or the client's birthday is today, or the client is going through a certain situation in life, in their business, right? Not necessarily personally, but in their business, and how we can then supplement them with that area itself.
I'm sure that you're familiar with this what they call the wearables. The wearable can detect your heartbeats, can detect your facial expression or emotion.
That's right.
That's very interesting. Now, this all you can integrate into how you service a customer and how they respond. Already technology is there, right? So maybe Steve can contribute some of your ideas of what you have input into your bank that the customer feel very much closer to the bank, for all this facility you provided.
Okay, thank you, Paul and Michael. Partly from a customer service perspective, the way we look at it is that we want to make the process as efficient as possible. If a client has to reach out to us, we also have equivalent of chatbots. We have a chat function in the app as well as on web logins, but we also have a customer services team. If it reaches a stage where a customer has to pick up a phone to call us, we know it's already a problem. So then we have to be super friendly, super efficient to ensure that we can solve their problem as soon as possible.
I don't know how many of you have experienced that. I'm sure you have experienced that. Sometimes you're on the phone with the voice message come from one segment to another section before it answers to you. It is really very irritating. So how does AI cut short that process?
Well, actually, in terms of AI, we have actually it's quite a combination, because in most cases, although they're to use the chat function or the web login, they're in front of a computer or mobile device. We actually use a lot of voice recognition and facial similarities check, and actually that can determine the almost the mood of the client. So by the time you if he reaches the phone, you actually have an idea of his level of frustration already. And again, it's on a rag alert, a red, amber, green, and whether there's how you address him or react to him immediately, super friendly to calm him down, address his needs, understand him, let him speak, and we more and more utilize technology in addition to our existing functionalities.
Good, very good. Anyone, if you want to jump in to the question that was raised just now about in a way of preparing your customers, personalizing to the individual's behavior. I do not know whether I come across this article, which I come across from McKinsey and some other consulting firm. So the future of jobs, in a way, moving towards people who are specializing in sociology, in human psychology, with high IQ, not IQ, but EQ, emotional intelligence, because people need to communicate with people. Technology can give us a lot of facilities that empower us a lot, but still people need to communicate with people, right? So to your question, just now the question somebody raised is that we still have this human touch. Only what we can automate, we can automate everything, right? But still the communication with people, right? So, so to the question, let me move on to Kenneth. Do you have anything to contribute on that, especially in the area of helping your clients in preparing all the other financial reporting and things like that? How do you communicate with them? How to use the technology? You have to unmute yourself. Yep.
Yeah, he's muted.
Initially, when we introduce AI to our clients, they are a bit resistant because the first thing came to mind is the cost. So we give them this assurance that cost will be very low and minimal. Luckily, also Nasri give us a very good fees proposal. That's why we can offer a very competitive fees rate also. But okay, this aside, once we introduce to them and once they adopt it and they feel that it's a need to them, then definitely we can price it at a higher value added fees. But as what I think initially when you introduce, even if you give it for free, I think no one wants to use the service if they don't know what they're going to use it for. So at the end of the day is the mindset where if the client is ready to adopt or even use it and they see the value in it, they will definitely be able to use the AI services we introduce them, even be it now or even a few years down the road also.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, Paul, actually with my firm, I don't mind if I just
go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
And so actually with my firm, right, you'll be surprised that a lot of front-end facing are humans, all right? But behind it, we are using decision trees and AIs, right, to basically democratize the work in such a way, right, that what would have taken, say, 10 man-hours to do the work, right, we could do it in 1 hour, but we still charge about a certain rate, right, that is market rate, because there's a minimum to market rate for tax work, for audit work, etc. And this minimum, right, what we have done is that we have optimized the process, but we do not remove the human component from the front end. Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you. Julian, you have anything to contribute in the helping your clients to invest the hard-earned money? You know, the part of my business last time when I was in practice was that, you know, we help the client to start a company from formation until the end of it, to audit, to tax advice, to something, to the whole spectrum of it. But accountants normally don't do investment advice, right? But sometimes I find that, you know, the value that the client looking for is I will make so much money. How do you help me to manage my wealth, right?
Yeah,
So that is the part.
I think that the investing is very dynamic. It's not static. So
yeah,
the old ways of investment advisory is static, meaning that you give a lump sum of money and the guy recommends this is how you should invest. But with Robo Advisory, you're in a position to set up many kinds of financial goals, like your retirement, children's education, saving to buy a car, saving for a wedding, and so on. And each of those goals have got different types of investment recommendations. The other point about whether AI can help to improve the investing decision is that I feel that the battleground is going to be privacy because the information is already all around us. We're leaving footprint everywhere. So is this battle between what humans want and what technology wants, right? Technology wants to become very powerful. It's been a few decades since Moore's law, which correctly predicted that the processing power would double every 18 months, and continues to do so. And so technology is going to become very powerful, and they will be able to just at a snap of the fingers collate all this information for the human beings. But we are stopping it because we are worried about our privacy. So right now, the service that is being offered in terms of our business is that we are prodding the customer to input their information, right? The more information that we get, the better we can advise on the investment process.
Good. And that's why they rely on trusted advisors like yourself to be able to protect their privacy. At the same time, they can open up to manage your own wealth. And that is a very important part of the services for professionals. All right, let's go to Sam now. Sam, do you have any area that you would like to contribute on the topic we're talking about? Sam?
Well, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes. We have 2 minutes, don't mind. Hello?
We still, how we convince clients, this is that the trust of technologies, that how can we convince clients to implement AI technologies in the professional service sector? And because the human touches and then technologies, right? That's I want to ask how we can convince clients to rely on technologies.
Well, I think it is always the question of risk reward, the question of what do they gain out of it, through implementation of technology. There is a growing trend of people now talking about, value creation. That is a focus, regardless of whatever that you're offering to the client, whatever technology, how do you create value, right? This Professor Mervyn King, he was one of the ones who started the sustainable reporting as well as integral reporting. He came up with a very interesting book called Chief Value Officer. What is alluding to is that a term accountants, chief financial officer, or whatever terminology we use, is no longer just financial, but move on, expand it to value creation, right? That'd be very interesting. That's what I'm involved with the Global Integral Reporting Council, is because they're really promoting this idea of financial reporting is important as it is not enough. You ought to create value, right? All right, this is another topic we can talk very much about. Now, I know the time is running, so Rizan, you have the privilege to close up the discussion. Rizan is the organizer of this event.
Thanks, Paul. I think one of the areas that we also need to pay attention is the advancement of technology that now has been structured to become a persuasive technology. There's a professor in Stanford called B.J. Fogg, where he take technology further in terms of making it persuasive. And this is where the example of persuasiveness is very apparent in how Facebook, how WhatsApp, and a lot of other retail-based application is shaping the definition of what's truth and what's not. The study that he did in Stanford, and he has a lab there called Persuasive Technology Lab, he actually looked into how technology influence the behavior of customer, whether it's retail or business. And this is actually an area where AI play a huge influence in terms of how you stack and structure the technology. So I think that's another area where we cannot deny that technologies are not just about the capabilities, but how you combine various technology also have a very, very significant way in terms of how we determine whether this is valuable or not, like what Paul said just now. And you can also see in certain countries like America, they are so divided in terms of what is the definition of truth, because their reliance on technology and how they are so intertwined in technology. So in closing, I just want to say that it's not just about one technology that we should be aware of, but combination of many technology that comes together and how it shapes our behavior around it and how we make decisions based on those combined technology. That is very important for us to understand. Thank you.
Very well said, Ridwan. It's a very nice closing for this discussion. Without doubt, technology is invading, so to say, in all our lives. So we have to learn to embrace it as part of what life is. Right? Just like today, every one of us carrying a cell phone. It's become a norm, And within the cell phone, there's a lot of technology within it, depending on your inclination of what area, what apps you like to use, that kind of thing. So I think this conversation can continue, and I hope that we have this community developed after this to exchange ideas. There's a lot of ideas that we are still learning. We are at the frontier of very exciting journey, all right? And I think we're open-minded. We have the propensity for lifelong learning. It is nothing to fear about. That is a very, the brave new world ahead of us is really very exciting. So with that, thank you very much to all of you who has contributed tremendously to this conversation. And I hope that we establish community to continue to get in touch with each other. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for all those who participated. Yeah.
Thank you so
Sure,
much.